Hey, today's December 27th, 2016, and I am going to work a little bit more on the vibrato. I've been trying to train that a little bit more the past weekend. Really trying to get my muscles into shape to perform the vibrato. I kind of realized that when I'm playing and I'm trying to activate the vibrato, that I am not really sure what muscles I should be engaging. And in fact, it's so out of control because this motion is kind of alien to a beginner like myself, that I'm just trying to shake and rattle and trying to move the finger and trying to slide. There's a lot of ways to describe this vibrato, and all of which ultimately means that it's inconclusive to how I'm actually doing it. So I wanted to sort of break it down a little bit, slow it down, and really just experience the motion a little bit more in depth, maybe to a little bit more more prolonged duration, such that my muscles will start understanding, here's a new movement that I want you to do, and you'll get used to it. And that motion might not be exactly correct, though. Trying to add in a variation or a variant of that motion hopefully should be easier to do than trying to hit it right the first time, because I don't think anyone really gets it right as a beginner. They sort of have to really sort of train their muscles to be ready to perform the movement first of all, and once they are able to perform the movement, then we'll go ahead and try to make it a little bit more precise and accurate in my technique. Similar metaphors in any type of sports, any type of athletic training. You need sort of to develop the fundamentals of body function, having your muscles and also your nervous system ready to sort of perform this sort of complex multi-lever, right, in the finger, all the joints, the wrist, the elbow, the shoulder, sort of muscle group and multi-lever movement in the vibrato. So my last video I was talking about this new bow, so I don't think I played it in the last video, at least for the recording, so this will be another chance for you guys to listen to what this bow sounds like. It doesn't sound any different really, but yeah, without further ado, then let me go ahead and again work on a more prolonged vibration for the vibrato as I just go down and up a scale. And then I'll point out some of the things that I kind of observed and are sort of processing through my mind on some of the thoughts on how this vibrato sort of differs from string to string, at least some of my thoughts on it. So yeah, let's get started with just a simple scale and doing nice long bows. Maybe a 5 or a 6 slow counts, and just trying to get that vibrato. And I'm going to come down the scale now. Let me just shake my arm out a little bit. Some of those, even just coming up the scale, were kind of inconsistent, and I noticed that already. And some of it comes into play as my muscle is not ready again. And also the shape in which my hand makes with the string. Some of those dots that I was talking about was that I believed that the shape needed for a sustained vibrato kind of differs when you're vibratoing on the A string versus the D, the G, and the C string. For example, I noticed that on the C string, if I just try to do the similar motion to the best of my abilities, the same motion as I do on the A string, I don't actually hear the vibrato that much. It's almost like the C string has you need a larger, wider vibrato in order to actually hear a difference in that oscillation. And I think this is true. In fact, I think some of the videos that I watched talked a little bit about that, in that, the strings, the distance needed to hear a difference on the C string vibrato is a lot wider than it is on the A string. The A string, I can just sort of just fidget with the finger, and I'll already hear a nice clear oscillation. So if I'm here on a C string, just doing that smaller motion, I can't really hear it. I'm not sure if it's picking up on the microphone that well, but I find on the C string, I'm going to need to really either do a lot more of a sliding motion, sort of that practice sliding that I was doing early on when I was trying to understand this motion. In order to hear a more cohesive oscillation between the two sounds, or between the two notes that the sound wave is oscillating between. Whereas on the A string, that's actually quite little movement in my finger in terms of up and down sliding, as much as it is just sort of shaking, a little bit more of that shaking shape. The shape of this movement is a little different than this movement. And besides the actual movement of the finger, the shape of my hand in conjunction with the wrist is also a little different. Obviously, in order to reach over to the C, I cannot bend my wrist up too much, because then I won't have enough leverage to really activate the C string enough. So whenever I'm coming over on a C string, I find my wrists probably, and I'll have to review this, it probably comes up a little bit more, and when I'm on the A string, it probably comes down. This is what I mean by down, wrist down a little bit more, and when I'm on a C string, wrist up a little bit more. I'm going to have to ask my teacher or look at some more videos in order to see if that is a good practice for me to continue with or not. But in order to sort of really get more leverage and to get sometimes a good C, sort of this tunnel finger shape that I'm pressing down the strings on, I feel like I need to come over a little bit more so the wrist, I don't want to have it pop up, but I do want it to come up a little bit more, so then when I'm on the A string, you'll see that it sort of just naturally drops a little bit. The elbow drops just slightly, and the wrist, this curvature here, does sort of drop a bit more here. So now that I'm a little bit more warmed up for the vibrato, what I want to do is I want to really sort of exercise my arm in terms of this vibrato motion. And the arm will become a little bit more fatigued, but sometimes I need to push through that fatigue a little bit in order for the arm to understand that, hey, it's okay that you're going to be fatigued here, and that you'll get stronger over time as I continue to sort of extend this duration of the vibrato. And also, one thing I haven't talked too much about in terms of my learning and understanding of the vibrato is that I haven't practiced or at least I haven't recorded that much of different tempos on the vibrato. I've sort of just been trying to get it to sound like an oscillation, but I have not gotten to the point in which I feel a little bit more comfortable slowing that down to be a slow vibrato and then transitioning up tempo a little bit faster and a little bit faster. So that's another good exercise that I've been experimenting with a little bit in the past couple of days on while I'm doing this prolonged vibrato, to also start slow, increase the oscillation, so that the frequency will be faster and faster until as fast as I can do it, and then control that tempo back down. So I'll start off on the A string this time. Okay, so here we go. We'll start off slow. A little bit faster. So I tried to speed up, slow down, go slow, fast, and then sort of just play around with a little bit of that change in speed. I notice that as I'm getting more and more fatigued, that the movement is becoming less and less from here. Like, it's almost like it's so tired and it's seizing up a little bit that all I really get is this sort of tremor in my hand as I'm trying to do this vibrato. So let me see if I can incorporate a little bit of a wrist motion when I get tired of generating that vibrato from the shoulder and the elbow here. And what I mean by generating a little bit of motion from the wrists and hand is what I was talking about before. When you think about it less as if your hand stayed fixed and it was trying to do the vibrato and have the movement have the elbow be the pivot point, then it could only do an up and down motion. Whereas if you also think of it as also not necessarily just up and down, but to have the fingers be bouncing on the string, such that you bounce down, back up, bounce down, back up, bounce down, back up, bounce down, back up. That there is some activation in the wrists in terms of this. It generates from the elbow, and as the elbow wants to slide down, you also activate from the wrist to get this finger to bounce down, and as it bounced down, it has that slight rotation. Has that slight rotation here, and I'm generating this mostly from the wrist. I don't want to exaggerate it too much because of this type of vibrato where it's only wrists. So I do want to continue thinking about activating it from the elbow if I can. So let me try D string first finger now. When I'm trying to play a consistent, I'm noticing that as I'm getting fatigued, it slows down, and I'm like, oh, I cannot sustain that same oscillation for that long. So again, part of the exercise, I think, to try to get my muscles used to that motion, get my arm used to that motion, and be strong enough to sustain it. I'm probably using more energy than it should need, actually, because as a beginner, when you don't actually know the movement, you actually do it a little bit less efficiently. So I'm probably expending a lot more effort than is actually needed to perform it. Alright, so that's sort of what I've been trying to play with the past few days, on really trying to focus on strengthening my arm and fingers in order to get used to that motion, get used to this vibrato motion such that I've become a little bit more used to it. So when I actually go ahead and play one of the pieces, as soon as I hit the note, hopefully it comes a lot faster. It sort of comes a little bit more naturally. It's almost like it's on demand. So I'm trying to train my muscles to build that connection in the nervous system in order to have it come when I want it to. So especially when you're playing fast, there's not a lot of time to situate your finger and then, oh, okay, let me think now. I should vibrato, and here we go. Arm, are you in position? Can you go ahead and vibrato? You want it to be just come naturally when you want it. You're on the note, you hit it, vibrato right away. So on-demand vibrato is what we're working towards, making that connection, having it come more naturally when you want it, and it just happens.